Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. All right, our Sunday sit down. John Middlekauff, former NFL scout, has the 3 and Out podcast. I could start in a lot of areas. I'm going to start with Minnesota Green Bay, because going into Lambeau, 28-0 lead. It was weird. I said this Friday on FS1. I didn't want to bet this game because I could see two different things happening. And one of the things I could see happening is Jordan Love without a lot of in-game reps against Brian Flores and just being rusty, just being off. I mean, Brock Purdy and C.J. Stroud were like, this defense is insane. I've never seen anything like it. And I did feel like Jordan, it was moving real fast for him. And I mean, their special teams, their defense, it wasn't good either. Green Bay had, I think, 7 penalties in the first half. But I did give them, I mean, they made it tight. Is it a fair defense of Jordan Love? Is this maybe the best defensive coordinator? You're not getting in-game reps. This is a lot. I mean, this thing made Brock Purdy and C.J. Stroud look lost.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it. First, obviously, you missed that much time coming off a knee injury, and he's a player that's predicated on moving around a little bit. You could argue, did you need to do this after you won the last 2 games? Could you have waited another week and just see what you can do, muck up the game with Malik Willis? Now, the counter is this is not the NBA. Guys play when they're injured. They don't sit out when they're healthy, no matter what you play, right? If you can. And by the end of the game, he definitely looked a little bit better. But here's the thing, Colin, and this goes back to last year and even before he got injured in the Eagles games. He can be really sloppy with his footwork. And maybe He took good notes from Aaron Rodgers. I would say Aaron Rodgers is one of the only players that has ever gotten away with it at the level in which he's gotten away with it. You know, Favre balls, he threw a lot of interceptions, right? I mean, it's not normal to throw the ball constantly off your back foot 40 yards. And when you're playing a high-end defense, I did a little research the last couple of weeks because I was like, do people in the league think Minnesota's for real? The Niners and the Texans both responded, hell yeah. And they came out today. Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold, that first half, looked like Joe Montana and Bill Walsh. And obviously their defensive coordinator. Crazy. Like, after that first half, it wasn't even close. No team was in their realm of level of play through 3 weeks and a half. Not the Chiefs, not any other team in the league. And honestly, well, I guess we'll see the Bills tonight, but not the complete game, the defense and the offense and the weapons they have, Colin. So you ran into a buzzsaw, but you can't throw intercept. He wore a Favre jersey to the game. Jordan loved it, and he played a lot like him in the first half, flinging it all over to the other team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the knock on Jordan Love, and I heard this coming out of college, was he was loose. He was talented, but he was really loose. And players that play like that, Mahomes can early in his career, generally, now the good news, he has Matt LaFleur, but players like that will revert back to that when things speed up. They'll get really loose. We've seen, by the way, Stafford earlier in his career could do this, where, you know, when things break down, you're running for your life, you're moving, you're trailing, you're just trying to make plays. So I give Jordan Love a little bit of a pass. But I think the thing with Darnold that's unbelievable is that his precision, I mean, he had 20 of 28, 7 rushes. So you're getting all the upside that we always knew with Darnold, which was, guy can make plays, a big, strong guy. And we're getting none of the reckless. So I was texting with a friend in the league today. He goes, Minnesota's got the best coaching staff in the league right now. Top to bottom, the best coaching staff. Everything's hitting. And, you know, we this is an offensive league, and we always know who the hot offensive coordinator is. Ben Johnson a couple years ago or last year. We don't talk about the hot defensive coordinator. Mike McDonald for Baltimore was, but you're overshadowed because it's an offensive league. Brian Flores, people forget when he was in Miami. Take the Tua thing out. He takes a mess over. They're not very good for about 4 weeks. They get pretty interesting for 4. And by week 8, Miami had elite defense and special teams. And he has worked hard, Flores has, to clean up his reputation. When Tua bagged on him, he immediately addressed it and apologized. He smiles. Kevin O'Connell, by the way, have you noticed this, is letting Brian talk at press conferences. He's giving him an opportunity to, like, hey, man, we're going to rehab your image here a little bit. Brian is smiling. I mean, clearly Minnesota, like, knows what they have, knows they're not going to keep him forever. He's going to get a job. will rehab your reputation. But I think what Flores is doing, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud look completely
Yeah, Brian
lost.
Flores is as good as it gets right now at defensive coordinator. You could argue they're the equals right now of Andy Reid and Spags, but the difference is Andy has
Yeah.
Mahomes throwing to me and you. He's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. You know what Andy would do for Aaron Jones? I mean their offensive weaponry, and like you said, even the pick today, for Sam Darnold to throw interceptions, guys are making great plays, right? And his
Yes.
athleticism showing up. This is a guy went from like, oh, he's gonna get a good contract to every game that goes by. It's like, what is this team gonna do? I mean, you don't let a quarterback who's playing like this walk out the building. You just don't. And with every passing week, I mean, they are dominating these games. I'm sorry, when you go up 28-0, we saw it in this game, we saw it in the Alabama game. It's a little bit different for the offense in the second half than when the game is,
Right.
10-7 in the third quarter.
No.
It's just the corners, the DBs, the coordinators are not calling the same things, but their speed on offense is eye-opening. I mean, Jefferson is an all-time talent. I mean, he just jumps off the screen. Addison is
God.
a fantastic player, and the play calling. Everyone in the league, you talk to him, I talk to him. Kevin is just like a very humble, low key, former quarterback, good looking guy, but he doesn't carry it. Jim Harbaugh carries himself like a big swinging dick. Kevin O'Connell, when he's a
Yeah.
pretty mellow, low key, you wouldn't know he was San Diego State, just drafted by the Patriots. You wouldn't know he's a former NFL quarterback just watching him on the screen. But as a play caller, I mean, he's right up there immediately with the Andys and the Kyles. And then a couple years ago, remember how bad their defense was and hiring Flores? They look like a juggernaut right now. Now, you never know
Yeah. I
Darnold
mean,
in some of these
John,
bigger games. There's just, you won't know it till he plays it, but he keeps answering the bell against the best teams in the league.
yeah. And John, I don't think we look at Minnesota's talent defensively as elite. That's why every weekend it's a different player. I mean, you watch the Chiefs today. Chris Jones is
He's a Hall
unblockable
of
every
Famer.
Sunday. Today it was ridiculous with backup offensive linemen. It was a joke. They could literally, even the running backs would come over to help. It didn't matter. He just blew through people. Minnesota's doing it with different players each week because they don't really have an Aaron Donald. They don't have a Chris Jones. What they have is a collective. They're well coached. They're lined up. And again, Green Bay's special teams were out of sorts. I'm going to give it a little bit of a Green Bay pass just because of it's like your first test is a calculus test in college. Like that was a tough one for Jordan Love to walk into that defense and that momentum, but it's not and I love Sam Darnold, but this story is equal. Darnold's redemption and resurrection and the defense. It is shutting people down. I think Green Bay is going to be fine. And I'm going to pivot to another game. Time for this week's player I thought might give almost anything to redo his game, brought to you by Uber Eats. This week it's Jordan Love. Ups and downs in his first game back. He'd love to redo those 3 picks against the Vikings. That was this week's Uber Eats Player of the Week. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Rams, Chicago. Chicago beat the Rams 24-18. And again, Rams don't have Puka, Cooper, their best offensive lineman. If they did, I think they win this game. They just couldn't convert. They can't convert in the red zone very well. They don't have playmakers. Every drive for the Rams feels like it has to be like a 70-play drive. But I thought Caleb Williams today, speaking of the North. Now, again, the Rams weren't fully staffed, but I thought Caleb Williams today with a run game. So Swift had, I think, 7 catches. They had 125 yards rushing. Therefore, the offensive line was better because the defense had to be honest. I thought Caleb looked, and again, they had these young quarterbacks. Even Jaden Daniels can struggle with this. The motion penalties, they go on the road or it's loud. I mean, even Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers today, the Jets had 5 of them. That's tough. But I thought Caleb today looked, feet were better, poised, O-line better, and he had a run game. And it's like, I thought Caleb played really well.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he misses some passes that he definitely hit a lot in college. I don't want to call them layups, but there were a couple today, a DJ Moore down the sideline. But this is the formula. for a young quarterback. 130 yards on the ground and 23 attempts. You know what they did last week, 50 attempts when the majority of the game is within a score is insanity. It's one thing when you got Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers you're not setting the guy up for success. And I'm with you. I like they just have to find a way. Now they kind of like bench Swift, but then he started making plays. They were saying during the week they were going to give other running backs a shot, maybe to give him a little kick in the ass. Like you're dancing around too much. We paid you to depend on you to help this young guy out, and he just listen. You don't turn the ball over. The reason we talk about turnover so much and hear coaches talk because in these NFL games, even early in the slate, you're like this 7 games going on right now is terrible. Half of them are all tight in the fourth quarter. So you give the ball away,
Right.
It's pretty devastating. And he doesn't throw a pick, and you're only throwing the ball 23 times. Like that's a successful strategy against, most teams that you're going to play. But you cannot ask this guy to throw the ball 50 times a game and think that's conducive to winning. Not with the guy playing the 4th game of his career who has a little hero ball syndrome to him. So when you're asking him to do it a lot, it's going to get a little out of whack.
Well, and the interesting thing, the tricky thing for Chicago is, and you saw it again today, Eberflus's defense situationally is pretty good. Matt knows what he's doing on that side of the ball. Now, Cliff Kingsbury obviously knows what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. You're watching right now a masterclass. But a lot of these guys they're great. Some guys are vice presidents, some guys are CEOs. Clearly, Eberflus knows defense because they don't give you a lot of freebies. The Rams today, again, didn't have Cooper Puka, so it makes it really difficult. But when I watch Chicago today, I guess the word I would use is the one you used, formula. I'm like, oh yeah, this will work. They played even when they led. It was just it's just amazing what a decent. You don't have to rush for 200 yards, 130. Just Swift popped about 5 runs, several catches, and that's the formula. I still think this is going to be a 7-win team, but John, it will feel better than last year's 7-win team. You'll look at it and go, oh, we didn't have Keenan for a bunch of games. The defense is excellent. It feels, when I watch Caleb play and Justin Fields, I feel sometimes Justin Fields he's lost. Caleb's wildly talented. He just sometimes misses easy throws, but I feel like today, a couple of times, his expression doesn't change. He doesn't get down. There was a couple of the clock's winding down. I just felt Caleb felt under control.
Yeah, he
today.
definitely was less frenetic than the last couple of weeks. And that's where Jaden has really thrived. You're like, does this guy is he unflappable? But one thing that you just mentioned, he's got going for him, and they've been hammering it all year, is Brian Robinson, the running back from Texas, is a really good player. Hand the ball off to him. And that just calms everyone down. And the Bears were not able to run the ball. I think the problem, though, big picture, if the Bears only end up with 7 or 8, you just got coaching flux, then you got new coordinators, then you got more movement. I mean, that's just always an issue whenever we talk about young quarterbacks and just young teams in general, because they do have a lot of talent. But if you couldn't win this game, Colin, the Rams, understaffed, coming off a big win, so, they can inhale a little bit. That 10 a.m. kickoff for a West Coast team, long trip. If you're not winning this game, you're probably, instead of heading for 7 or 8, might be headed for 5 or 6. So this was a big game for Chicago at home. Quiet the crowd a little bit because the fans are like, what the hell's going on here? Partly because the expectations were so high. That's why think about with Jaden Daniels, both of them. I mean, these guys went 1-2. Both of them won the last 2 Heismans. But the expectations for Jaden weren't nearly as high as Caleb just because of the avalanche of hype really over the course of his college career from 3 years ago when he came in for Spencer Rattler in a Kansas game and ripped the ball out of the guy's hands. And you watch Jaden Daniels and you go, I don't know how you could look much better just in terms of calm, poise, deep ball accuracy across the field, just zero freak out whenever there's a rush, throwing guys open. Like, to me right now, and it's not apples to apples. They're playing on different teams. His offensive coordinator's clearly better. They sculpted an offense around him. that just fits. He's in the shotgun, but Kingsbury has added more physical run game by adding Anthony Lynn, who they stole from the Niners, who's kind of an old school running back guy. And it's just working. And I don't know how many games, how good their defense is. Ultimately, the Cardinals might just suck. But just if you just watch him independent of everything, you go, holy shit, this guy's got a lot going for him.